Hello ladies and gentlemen, lads and lasses, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be looking at 5 up-and-coming managers who you should be looking out for over the next few years. I'm going to go through their philosophies, their tactical preferences, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what I think makes them special and unique, and possibly the next wave of top managers. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The first man we're going to talk about is Vincent Kompany, who looks set to become the new manager of Bayern Munich for next season. Now, this might come as a shock, seeing as he did get relegated in 19th with Burnley, but I do think that this is a lot more astute from Bayern than people are giving it credit for. Kompany has a very expansive and attacking style, which looks to create high quality goal scoring chances. In the height of his powers in the Championship, he played a 4-3-3, which moved to a 3-5-2 when Burnley had possession, with the aim to dominate the ball and frustrate the opposition with that possession. They also aim to coordinate a high intensity counter press to suffocate the opposition and aim to win the ball back in those high attacking areas. And this was a tactic that worked extremely well in the Championship for Kompany. This was due to Burnley recruiting really well and having a higher calibre of player than really any other Championship squad had, and that was reflected in the 101 points that they got that season. Going into the Premier League, obviously this didn't work, but this was a Burnley side who had nowhere near the quality of some of the other Premier League sides in there. I think this tactic is one that will thrive with better players as they look to dominate possession, and obviously the higher calibre of the player, the better they are equipped to do that. And obviously we all know the resources that Bayern have in the Bundesliga, and that squad that they've got will probably go on to be really good under Kompany's system. The only problem that I see with Vincent Kompany is that it was arguably his tactical stubbornness which made Burnley struggle for so long. You only tweaked it and changed it towards the back end of the season, and that's when they did, in all fairness, start picking up wins. But I think this is something that Vincent Kompany will only learn from, and it'll make him a better manager in the long run. So keep your eye on Vincent Kompany, because I think he's going to do a lot better job at Bayern than people are going to give him credit for. Now moving on to Francesco Farioli, who learnt his trade under De Zerbi. He was De Zerbi's goalkeeping coach at both Sassuolo and Benevento in the Italian leagues. He spent the 23-24 season at Nice, guiding them to a very respectable 5th place finish, and has recently been snapped up by Ajax, who will be looking to get back on track after a season of struggle last year. Farioli's build-up play can be quite risky at times. He sets up from goal kicks with his 2 centre-halves in the same line as his goalkeeper. Then in front of that he has a 3 with his holding midfielder dropping really deep to get on the ball. He plays his 2 fullbacks starting wide, and then in front of that he positions his 2 8s behind the opposition's first line of press. From there the wide fullbacks work inside to aim to create 1v1s for his wingers. This relationship between the fullback and wingers is something that Farioli likes to emphasise. Moving forward, Farioli also likes to play with an attacking 5, with fast build-up play aiming to isolate the opposition's defence and also allow for an intense press and quick counter as they look to win the ball back. However, if this press doesn't work, Farioli compacts the pitch in a low block, aiming to force the opposition wide and not let them play through those central dangerous areas. Overall, it's a very exciting system to watch. Farioli hasn't been privy to a big job yet, but I do think he could be a good fit for this Ajax side, who can only really be considered underdogs after the season they've had, and they do need some big work in the summer if they're going to challenge at the top of that league. Farioli is a manager who seems to have gone under the radar when we're talking about those new up-and-coming managers, but I do think it will be very interesting to see how he gets on at Ajax, and he's one to watch for sure. And we've got Thiago Motta, who actually started his career by getting sacked at Genoa before building his reputation at both Spezia and Bologna. Motta's now set to take over Juventus, which personally I don't really like, because as we know, Juventus often take the best players and best manager in that league. I would have liked to see him stay at Bologna for another year and see how he gets on in the Champions League with them, because I think that would have been fun to watch. But I can understand why he's gone to Juventus, because they are one of the biggest clubs in Serie A, and it'll be interesting to see how he manages to fare with those higher calibre players. As you're probably already aware, as it hit the headlines, he sets up in a 2-7-2 formation. Now this might seem confusing, but in fact Motta views the pitch from his sideline view, so he sees 2 players in the nearest channel to him, then 7 players in the central channel, and then 2 players in the furthest channel away. In traditional terms, this is either performed in a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. Bologna set up to control possession in the opposition's third, but despite this they don't mind taking risks, with them often looking to create overloads in different areas of the pitch going forward. When playing a 4-3-3, this can often create a 2-3-5 formation, with Motta favouring push pushing one of his centre-backs into centre midfield to create a double pivot in there when they are aiming to keep possession. This double pivot also allows underlapping runners from the midfield, which often sees Bologna create a lot of their chances in the half space in between the centre-back and full-back of the opposition. With Motta's tendency to push a centre-back into centre midfield and also drop his striker into that midfield area to create different rotations, this does set them up well when they do lose the ball, with them often looking to counter-press centrally. They will go man for man from goal kicks and aim to win the ball high in the attacking third to create chances, yet they do also have a very well structured mid-block should this not work, where they sit in a 4-5-1 and they force the opposition wide, and again don't let them play in those central dangerous areas. Now, it's been well documented that Thiago Motta's tactics are pioneering in a way, with this 2-7-2 formation that no one's ever really seen before, so with that it will be very interesting to see how he fares at Juventus with those higher caliber players, as he's only really performed at Bologna so far, yet despite there of course still being question marks, there's no doubt that he's one to watch, and it'll definitely be interesting to see how he gets on going forward. Now we've got perhaps the most innovative style on this list, and that comes in the form of Fernando Diniz and his Fluminense side. Known as the godfather of relationism, Diniz aims to escape the tactical rigidity. He lays his team out in a 4-2-3-1, but with an anti-positional system that encourages players to express freedom and play almost solely on instinct. His team plays a heavily possession-based system. They aim to get the most technical players on the ball in the first phase to aid ball progression. Both his wingers and fullbacks both come in centrally to make sure there's always 3 or 4 options when progressing the ball forward. And this is most obvious when you look at the average positions of Fluminense in their last game, and you can see that there's no real adherence to any positions, and they are allowed to rotate and play with as much freedom as they want. They look to compact the pitch in possession, creating numerical overloads wherever they can, and they look to play through any opposition's press with rotations and off the ball movements, allowing for short progressive football to be achieved. This compacting of the pitch also allows them to retrieve the ball quickly when they do lose it. They play quite a high counter press, and they aim to do most of the defensive work in the opposition's half, very rarely wanting to drop back into their own to do that defensive work. Overall, this is a throwback system that brings elements of the old Brazil into the modern day. We're yet to see whether this style is something that's going to work in one of the world's biggest leagues, yet no matter what, Diniz has to be considered one of the most innovative and exciting coaches around, and it's going to be interesting to see his progression over the next few years, and whether in fact he can bring that relationism system into one of Europe's top leagues and succeed. Now moving on to possibly the most talked about person on this list, and we have Xabi Alonso, who is currently coaching at Bayer Leverkusen. When he came into the Leverkusen job, they seemed doomed to relegation. He came in, he took them to survival. Not only did he take them to survival, but they actually ended up finishing 6th that season, which was a monumental achievement in itself. And I think it's safe to say that no one saw them going unbeaten in the Bundesliga this season. Not only did they go unbeaten, but they toppled Bayern Munich's 12-year run of winning that title. They also won the DFB Pokal, and were 1 game away from going the whole season unbeaten and winning an unbeaten treble. So all props has to go to Xabi Alonso for that. I don't think anybody expected him to do as well as he has done. Alonso usually favours a 3-4-2-1 formation, but he has experimented with a 4-3-3 and a 3-4-3 at times this season. The staple of this tactic that has taken the world's headlines by storm is fast-paced both in and out of possession. Without the ball, Alonso likes to have his wide players and midfielders drop in to help out the back line, with a press triggered when the opposition reaches the danger zones where chances can be created. When the ball is won, Leverkusen look to counter quickly, not allowing the opposition to reset defensively and to create chances quickly around that final third. With the ball, a possession-based approach is adopted as they look to play in compact triangles, with there being an emphasis on firing the ball into the forward line when the opportunity arises. Despite this intricate interplay down the middle, Alonso also doesn't mind his sides creating chances out wide, with his fullbacks in Frimpong and Grimaldo often making overlapping runs and aiming to get the ball into the box early. With yet another season at Leverkusen on the cards, it'll definitely be interesting to see whether Xabi Alonso can keep up this remarkable run that he's been on with Bayer Leverkusen. There's talk of him being first in line for the Real Madrid job when Ancelotti leaves. I do think he's probably a good fit for that, looking at him currently, but then again we'll have to see how this progresses over the next couple of years. Either way, he's definitely one to look out for in the future, and there's no doubt he's going to be a big name in coaching in the next few years and years to come. So with that, we come to the end of yet another video. Do let me know in the comments down below how you think these managers are going to get on in the future, and whether I maybe missed anybody off this list who should be there, and you never know, I might just do a part 2. But other than that, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.